I'm so glad we get to be together and do a little self massage with the tennis ball to start out. And we're going to start with, we'll be doing some foot massage in a moment, but everyone's all seated anyway. So we're going to start off on our backs. But before you go there, what you're going to be doing, you're going to be coming into bridge essentially. I mean, preparation for a bridge with your feet flat. You're going to lift the hips and you're going to place the ball underneath in what I call kind of the pool pocket. There's a spot right here that's soft. So it's below the kind of crest of the hip ridge and to the right of the sacral area. And you're going to then give your weight to it. And then as you're ready, you're going to roll your hips, or I should say swing your hips to the left, which will roll the ball to the outside. And then you'll swing them back. And you'll do that. And I'll give you other guidance and so on. But that's the basic placement and movement. Okay. And you're like, I didn't know I was going to get a massage this morning. Yay. No extra charge. All right. So I know from past experience that some people right now will be giving their weight to that ball and going, oh my God, this is so great. And others will be like thinking, ow, is it supposed to feel like this? What the hell? So just know it is really different for different people. It might be very different on your other side, you know, depending on what you've been doing with your body and where you're taking on the stressors. If it was shoveling compost or what have you, you might really feel it on one side. So progressively, you can add kind of other things. Number one, at some point when your hip is, in this case, again, we've got the ball under the right side. When you've got your hips all the way to the left, if you let your right knee settle a little down towards the floor to the right, that will then take the ball a little bit into your external rotators. You feeling that? Oh God, yeah. And so it's going to get right in there. And if you were standing and you put your hand there and you rotated your knee out and back, you would exactly feel those rotators. Progressively, you can also play with just lifting the hips and moving the ball down just a little. So on that same side, I usually do about 3 positions just on the one side. And of course, you can moderate how much weight you're getting. I've seen some looks of pain and consternation. Anybody getting a little bliss out there? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm seeing some hands for bliss. Yeah, for me, it's a very fine line, and that's why you want to monitor that intensity. But I often feel like it's such a relief to have some of that sore stuff dug into. Okay? And of course, we want to bring breath to it. You might even come into some of those sighing breaths. As we know, they're wonderful for settling our kind of nervous system and also moving. If you're kind of with this massage, you're kind of digging up some heavy stuff. Sighing breath, awesome for moving it on. The thing I love about sighing breath too is it really helps calm our amygdala, the alarm center of our brain. And even if we're not thinking about something really specific, stressful at the time, we don't have to have a story. The sighing breath can do what the body needs. So we don't have to consciously direct it or know what's needed. So if you have not already, let's move to the other side. And again, really try to keep track of what was that side like, you know, where was that most amazing place of sensitivity. And again, you can go all the way to almost kind of right to the tailbone. And sometimes it's just giving your weight to the ball and not even moving, but just letting yourself progressively give in and allow that stretch or that massage, really. If you got any questions, of course, please reach out. I want to hear from you. One of the things that I often think when I'm getting into some of these intense spots is like, God, it's a miracle I'm walking around. You're like, there's that much in there that's sore and tight, right? And it makes you realize how much our bodies just deal with quietly. And a little note, unless you're intentionally dropping that knee out to the side to get those external rotators, try to keep your weight really firmly and equally in both feet, because that's going to allow you, if all of a sudden there's a super zingy spot or something and you need to reduce your weight, then you're in a foundational place to do so. And at some point, before you put that tennis ball aside for later, you might try, one of my favorites, is to put the tennis ball right under the sacral triangle, right where we often place the block, and give your weight to it. And some of you might discover, you know, like this as much, maybe it's ouchy. A lot of times it feels gentler to me than the block. It does the same kind of tractioning of the low back and compression on that sacral triangle. Feels really good to me. Anybody else dig this? Yeah, okay, cool. And again, so then, you know, this is easy to travel with, right? Throw this in your bag and you've got a lot of ways to be supported on a trip. One more actually before you set it aside. Again, not everyone will love this, but if you would place it under the head, right at that occipital ridge, right at the center, if you will. And you may need to kind of hold on to the ball, but you can then take your head a little right and left and get into that occipital ridge a little bit. Some of you might feel like, yeah, you know what, I can do it better with my thumbs. Great. When that's all complete, go ahead, set the block aside. We'll come back to it. Please return to a comfortable position, whether it's knees bent or legs straight. Begin to roll the head side to side, tuning into that upper back, what's between the shoulder blades, spine. And I mentioned this before I started up the recording, but you could at home take that tennis ball, put it in a sock, and be able to manipulate where the ball lands between the spine and the shoulder blade, and then you can use the wall for some massage. Chair with solid back, part of the TV. Oh, excellent. Yeah, and I've sometimes used it also for my side of my leg and hip by pressing between, you know, the ball between me and the wall. That can feel quite amazing. Right. We're gonna do something a little bit similar to some of the stuff we did last week. I was really trying to get us into releasing around the spine, and I want to do a little bit of that again. So if you would plant the feet flat, place the block between the thighs, unless you don't prefer it. And we're gonna do a few of just these like miniature contractions, all right? And then we'll get a little bit bigger with it. So just initially, you might work your kind of palms rotated over to the sky, so the shoulder blades are coming a little towards the spine, broadening the heart space. And at first, I'm going to ask you to just come into your breath, inhaling slow, deep and wide through the nose. And also exhaling through the nose if you're not too stuffy. You might add your ujjayi, light connection, tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth. And first, just scan. What is your breathing like? Is it feeling pretty free and flowing, or are you experiencing some restriction and stress, perhaps from emotional stress, hurry, and worry? When you feel ready, I'm going to have you on your next exhale begin to create that compression exhale, basically, even though you've got your knees bent. It's the same thing, belly to spine, spine to floor, anchoring in that low back till you feel the pelvis tilt. Holding till there's simply no more breath. Inhale, relax, and allow the spinal curve to return. We'll do this a few more times, just this. And while we're there, scan and notice like what's happening in your head and your neck. Do you find yourself tightening your tongue against the roof of the mouth, etc.? I hope not, but if you do, try to soften there. And I'm hoping one of the things you're feeling is big ignition at that low butt cheek. You might also, just sort of as a head-on, already be feeling the ignition in the inner thigh, as if you were squeezing the block or trying to. Your next time in your exhale, and please don't rush to meet my words, Exhale, belly to spine, spine floor, and then intentionally add a squeeze of the top. Notice if that's any different than what was kind of already happened. Inhale, soft plow. Notice that low back curve return. The next time we do this, again, all that same stuff, belly to spine, spine to floor, squeeze the block. Go ahead and just raise the hips an inch or two off the floor and hold for the remainder of the exhale before inhaling and slowly lowering. Lovely. Let's release the block a moment and come into some opposite shape. We'll return to bridge. You can bring knees to belly, or some of you might go right into happy baby. That could feel amazing. Wherever you are, some nice organic exploration, deep breathing. And then we're going to come back into bridge and add our foot hover. So we'll place the feet, no more than like 4 or 5 inches apart, max. Work those shoulder blades close to the spine a little bit. Come on up. You might place your hands right on the hip bones as a measuring tool as you then lift one foot barely off the floor. Okay, this is not a lifting your foot up high. I want you to lift it barely off the floor. And hold, scan. Try not to use the neck. I find that difficult. And I find it more difficult on one side. So I'd like you to similarly scan and notice what's happening in your system. I'm not assuming you're all as out of balance as I am. Yeah, looking good. Oh, that's complete once again. Knees to belly or happy baby or whatever your body calls to. Again, ultimately, as we practice longer throughout our life, and we deepen our practice, our body starts to tell us what's needed, and that's the ultimate. All right, we're going to plant our feet wide for just a brief counter pose, horse riding stance. It doesn't have to be super wide. If you go too wide, it might feel awkward in your joints. So just have them go kind of outside of that neutral path of motion. And then slowly on down. Keeping your feet where they are. I'm going to invite you to take your right ankle onto your left thigh. And then we're going to core to spine for support, arms out in a T. Slowly take the legs down into the right. Now, this can create stretch in that left hip, IT band, and so on. If it's creating any compression or discomfort in the spine, please come out and place both feet on the floor and just let those knees go together to the right without that crossing of the right ankle. And notice, breathe, making little adjustments. When you choose to come back, you could use your back hand to kind of help press yourself to center. Keep your legs as they are, and then now bring that right knee into your chest for reclined pigeon. So we're still working with that right ankle crossed on left thigh. Shoulders down the back. Yeah, and then little adjustments can make a huge difference. Maybe it's holding the foot with your left hand. Maybe it's pulsing a little left and right. Always breathing. Checking in with your neck. We're going to place that left foot on the floor. Listen carefully. We're going to use our upper arms like you do when you press into bridge. We're going to raise the hip up off the floor. So left leg is doing the pressing. Then I'm going to release the right leg and press the foot towards the ceiling. So it's a lot like bridge with foot hover, except that right leg is heel flexed straight up to the ceiling. And if you'd like, you can do a little pulses using that left leg, lowering and raising the hips just a little bit. And try not to use the neck. Release the spine, release the left leg along the floor. You know where we're going. Big inhale. Exhale, slowly anchor and let that right leg take its journey forward and down. It's painting a stripe on the wall. And of course, melting, the best part, right? Lovely. We're going to then plant both feet on the floor, cross the left ankle onto the right thigh. Really important that the heels flex. The left heel is flexed. That will protect the knee. And then we're going to slowly arms out to a T. Let the knees go down towards the left. And again, if you don't like this is too much, or it feels crimpy in your back, then bring your feet so that they're kind of together and both legs are together. Is this side different? And I didn't offer it on the other side, but you could also release like your back arm and reach up above your head. Sometimes that will create a nice additional stretch through that side of mine. See what you think. And allows us support from core and the left arm to press back up towards center. And now we'll come into reclined pigeon, hugging that left knee tight, tight, tight. Big breaths. Never sacrifice the inhale. It's what really allows the body to release tension and rearrange things, renegotiate. Finding, I hope, a couple of really good spots and breathing into them. Taking all the time you like. Of course, don't rush. When you're ready, you'll plant that right foot on the floor and raise the hips up. I like to then bring my arms into that supportive position with the upper arm anchoring, hands slayed towards the ceiling. And then slowly releasing the left leg so the heel is facing the ceiling. The whole foot is really. And pulsing using that right glute and hand. If you feel like you're going to get a hamstring cramp, come out and always come back in. Is this side different? You might have noticed some differences during the ball massage. This is another chance to notice. At some point, you're feeling ready to come out, lower the spine, and slowly descend that left leg. And I did not include the other part that I did last time, extending your right leg along the floor. No matter, either way is good. And melting. Oh, and you won't be surprised that I'm going to have us come from here into abdominal pumping. Inhaling slow, deep, and wide, as if it's all you'd ever do. Exhale, empty the breath completely. And then begin, draw the belly in, push down. In and out. So this is our gut, which is both our digestive center, our emotional center. And you'll notice, of course, also all the structural stuff that crosses through this area, connecting our hip girdle to shoulder girdle, making us strong in our core. So much more than just those abdominal muscles. Yeah, when you're complete with a couple of cycles, I invite you to once more scan your body. And you're not just scanning for muscles, you're scanning kind of energy too, like, how am I? And perhaps, how do I feel different than when I came to practice this morning? I'm hoping you've found a number of wonderful shifts. All right, my friends, we are going to come up onto hands and knees. Intelligent hands, cow cat. We've done it 10,000 times or more. So useful. So you might remember last week, we really paid attention to subtlety here. And so if you want to do that again, be very thoughtful. Tailbone tilts back. Inhaling, we draw the heart forward away from the tailbone. We breathe and notice. Exhaling, we slowly start to tuck the tailbone. We feel those core muscles. We feel the spine slowly curving and eventually the head hangs. Inhale, tailbone tilts back and begins the process. And you might remember from last week, those of you who are here, that one of the things that we are looking for is the point when we're tilting the tailbone under, that we start to feel that lower butt engaged. And really, in most neutral positions, including standing and including stable table where we're in a neutral spine, that butt muscle should be slightly engaged. It's supportive of the structure. The next time you're in cat back, let's just give ourselves another round of a little organic massaging. I'm going to take my ribs left and look out of my right shoulder. Oh. Maybe you end up moving your hips back towards your heels. Just notice. Oh, if you need a little bit of wrist relief, love it up. You can always go to fist as well. Otherwise, come back and into your stable table. Check in with that low butt. If you're not sure, squeeze it, kind of hyper tuck it, and then just lengthen until you feel strong and neutral. And we're going to lift that right hand, left knee. Inhale, extend and hold. Scan yourself. Take those limbs just a little to the outside. See if you can reduce weight in your left hand, and you can even lift it. And then slowly back to center and to all four limbs. Shocking amount of work, or at least it was for me just now. Okay, left hand, right knee lifts. Extending. See if you can get that back leg actively straight. Heel is flexed. Take the limbs out to the side a little. Is there any more lift from below that you can give to reduce weight in that hand? And slowly back to center. We're going to do 2 more rounds like that. Right, left, right, left. So really tune into your breath. Inhaling, extending, taking it out to the side a little. Is there more? Good, good. Exhaling back towards center and as slowly as you can, returning to all 4 hands. Yeah, this is a really fun one for just lighting up core strength, and hopefully you feel some heat. Make sure you're not taking your heel higher than your butt, because it will dump you into a low back arch. And that will make us weak when we're not. These core muscles can't work when we're in an arch in the low back. That soft tongue, looking good. When that's complete, we're going to come into thread the needle. If you don't like this version where you could do standing, where you just are crossing one arm, you could also come into the child's pose version where the hips are further back, which I think maybe is my favorite version. But the tail version is kind of fun because you can come in and out. So you can inhale and sweep that arm up, curling and rolling through the wrist, and then taking it down and through behind the other hand, settling on your shoulder. And maybe you want to come in and out a couple times because that felt necessary for your massage experience this morning. Eventually settling, you might use the floor hand to rotate the chest further away. Oh, I love the way that gets in behind my shoulder blade area. Anybody else feel that? Yeah, there's a group. Nice. And of course, when you're ready, we'll do the other side. So again, if you're just doing a standing version, you would cross that other arm in front, and you just take the other hand at about the elbow and press that arm towards your chest, and usually that'll kind of get you there. Yeah, breathe, notice. Okay. First in your own time, come on. We're going to come to our bellies and do a little yoga mudra. So that's you're intertwining those fingers. If when you go to do that, you cannot put the arms straight. This is where you'll want a strap, or I can run my scarf out to anybody. So intertwine those fingers, slowly try to press the fist towards the heels. Notice if you anchor a little bit using your glutes, you kind of anchor your hip bones and pubic bone, your low back will just feel generally better. And then this will be quite the active pose. So we inhale, exhale, press those fists further and see if you can get the hands up off of the back. What's the difference? Oh yeah. Yeah, we're looking for that shoulder blade sandwich. Nice. Cinnamon touch. Beautiful. And then I like pulsing. I find that really useful. Nice use of that color. Beautiful. Yes. Oh, yeah. Shoulder blade sandwich, Kevin, I love it. Good, press into my touch a little bit more. Good, and up a little more, maybe one more. Just almost right there. Oh. And of course, when you feel complete releasing. Yeah, maybe it would feel good to rock your hips side to side. You could bend your knees and windshield wiper a little left and right. So right now, hopefully you're all in a state of a little bit of ooey gooey. I find it's so much easier to relax after doing something active, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. So remember that too, if you're just struggling to fall asleep or whatever, sometimes just doing a little rock pose and then melting might feel great. For now, we're gonna do a little forearm plank and melt. I thought you were reading my mind. Yeah, so forearm plank, again, we're really looking for a neutral. We focused on this a lot last week, that I don't want to be hyper tucked, although that is one way to do it if you have an issue with your low back. And I don't want to be swagged and I don't want to be sassy bottom, right? So I'm really looking for a place where the core is connecting and I feel strong and support, but there is a little bit of a backup. I haven't tucked and flattened, right? If this is a challenge point for you anyway, please do this knees down. It's a much safer, gentler place to experiment with those little changes. Right, because when we aren't in our best alignment, often then there is some pressure and tension on the low back, and we want to have as little of that as possible. So if you're feeling low back, definitely do the knee down version. Absolutely. What is that like? Can you breathe there? Can you even have a soft smile there? Yeah, come out anytime. We're going to actually be going right into our jet airplane. So when you're complete, come out. If you want a deep breath in between, and then once again, anchor the pelvic triangles, we call it pubic bone, hip bones. Palms are facing the floor, and we want to inhale and extend, reaching the hands off the floor, maybe the spine coming off the floor. But if it is, remember, well, the spine's not on the floor, you know what I mean, the chest. You're reaching for the wall in front of your head. You're not lifting towards the ceiling. Lifting will tend to create spinal compression, and we are all about decompression. Come in and out a few times until you feel like, yeah, I could hold here for a little bit. And then there you might decide to reach one arm forward, one arm back, and maybe the other. What are you noticing? What's present? It's cool. They've done some studies around people who, for example, have severe spinal injuries, like discs that are disintegrated, blah, 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 but who are not in pain. And one of the things that can happen is if people are really strong in these erectors and all the erector spinae between those vertebrae, that they can create and maintain enough space through their muscularity that the pain is not happening, the nerves aren't being pressed on. I just think that is so freaking cool. Let's come in forearm plank one more time. So poses like this, where again, we are really committed to length, is how we develop all of that support structure. So again, once you're in your position, think about length from either knees to the crown of the head or the feet to the crown of the head. If you're on the feet, make sure you are squeezing the inner thighs so that the heels come upright in a neutral versus rotating out to the sides at all. And again, soften the tongue, right? Be in a sense of pleasure, joyful pleasure in your strength, and hopefully a little heat, a little heart rate. Yeah, someone's enjoying it, releasing one leg at a time off the floor. Oh, yeah, that's a great way also to test that you really are in your core, because you should be able to do that with pretty decent ease. When you feel complete, one more time, come on out and notice what's needed. Maybe it's hip rocking, maybe it's windshield wipering. Sometimes I'll circle the lower leg. This is something actually I do with my massage clients. I just do it one at a time, but I actually manually take their leg, I hold their ankle and I bend at the knee and I rotate the leg. And it's very interesting to feel, I think, as the client, what those connections are to the hips. And as the practitioner, I'm able to see sometimes side to side differences, indifferences. There's no indifference in my hips, I'll tell you what, they are very opinionated. All right, so I'd love to bring us into a front body stretch, that quadricep stretch. Some of you prefer a standing version, by all means do. Some of you may prefer the side body version, and that's an option. I find for people for whom getting a hold of the ankle is difficult, it is easier on your side because you can kind of lift the leg, get the ankle and bring it down or put a strap onto it. Otherwise, the face down version, I really enjoy that a lot because you've got the floor as reference point. So all for good. If you're doing the face down version, please place one forearm as support so that you can very intentionally reach for that ankle. Then resettle your forehead onto the forearm. Breathe and notice. So I want you to notice two things. Well, actually, it's like 8, but a couple big things. Squeezing the glutes down or forward, depending on your position, is partly what's going to create the stretch. And then the other thing that really changes it is that knee to hip alignment. So play with that a little bit, but generally we want the knee in alignment with the hip. We don't want it winging out. If it's winging in a little, probably okay, but not much. And we might notice what the breath does for us. If you're in the belly down version, it can be challenging to breathe here. It's part of the way I came out to be able to talk. But it is the breath that will amplify. Okay. Of course, in your own time, you'll explore the other side. Those of you who are doing the belly down version, at some point before we're complete with this, you might decide to reach back for that second ankle and then essentially come into a bow pose. Pressing the ankles back into the hands, flaring the toes. Whew. And I personally love going into child's pose after this, or if you were standing ragdoll as a nice decompression for that low spine again. So take note if one side felt very different from the other, because all of those things can add up to torque and pull on our structure. And that can affect our comfort in low back and more. And finding your own way, your own timing, we're going to come up into downward facing dog. So you might be, coming from child's pose into downward dog. Some of you will be walking your hands forward, back. You get the idea. Yeah. So let's tune into this pose and refine it. Check that your hands are in the intelligent hand position, pressure through the index finger and thumb pad, that you're externally rotating the shoulder heads. So they're not rotating in kind of up by your ears, but more like out and down the back. Yeah, and if your hands feel like maybe they're too close together, don't hesitate to bring them out a little bit. I know we're taught to have the straight in line with our shoulder, but that kind of create compression for people in the neck and trapezius muscle, and there's no reason it has to be that way. If you feel like you've got a good, strong position, see if you can release one leg, reaching for the wall behind without any drop, any shoulder or hip amendment. Nice, looking good. I saw a couple little elbow bends, but not bad. Check it out and switch. Keep strong in your breath. Keep strong in that belly towards spine. You got it. When you come out, invitation to hold, rest, or flow. Hold downward dog, rest child's pose or ragdoll, flow cow cat or dog series. Inhaling to your plank. Maybe you want to check that you're really in your core and you can try hopping. Maybe you want to come down to knees for chaturanga. I actually do. Bring those elbows back. Nice slow descent. Inhaling cobra, just like jet airplane, we want to lengthen the spine. We're not pushing backward. Exhaling, downward facing dog. 3 sighing breaths. Low belly is drawing towards the low back and raising the hips up and back. Don't miss out on that part. It's profound. You add that little harness and it will elongate your spine. It'll reduce pressure in the hands. Yeah, gorgeous, folks. All right, opportunity to either come out and resting, or if you'd like one more little heat up core progression, you're going to come forward into your plank and you're going to go down to your forearms and back to your hands. And you can do this knees down. I only want you to do this if you can do it without any shoulder hike. So if you start to feel that shoulder hike, either you're not igniting what you need to, or it's just not ready, okay? So strong core support. And then we're gonna come into some nice massage for the shoulders and upper back, so. Since you're working at time. Marvelous, all right. We're going to, I know we often do this at the end of practice, and it's not, don't get excited. We're gonna do the bra strap movement, and it's really, really important that you've got something either like soft and low enough like this under the bra strap that as you settle yourself, the head easily touches the floor. If it's hanging or the kind of, I really want like just the place above the occipital ridge is sitting on the floor. If it's higher up towards, say, my ponytail, your head's dropping down too much. So we either change what's under our back or we tuck something under our head. And so here's an opportunity, first of all, to just breathe and notice and receive a little unwinding. Anybody sensing that they really need a blanket or something tucked under their head? I always like to say here, we are seeking the So some part of you is like, yeah, I'm okay. We need to make a change. First, you might just roll the head side to side. And that might create awareness for sure between the shoulder blades, but also even further down the back. And you might explore shoulders, which again will get you into that upper back. One arm is straight to the ceiling. See that it's karate chop straight. And then bring it overhead towards the wall behind you again. It might not be straight in with the shoulder, it might be out to the side. And we're going to play with it. We're going to bring it further out to the side and further in. And at any point, you might pause. Sometimes I'll rotate my head away from the arm. So if I've got my right arm, I'll rotate my face to the left and breathe. Again, lovely moments of self-massage, right? Just listening inward, applying a breath, hanging out in whatever's that perfect angle or pressure. So it's a great opportunity to notice differences. Sometimes when you're making that range of motion with the arm, for example, there might be little clunks or areas of kind of stickiness or restriction. That's important information. Often those are areas that maybe our shoulders either not supported, something's not strong enough, or something's too tight, or both. And that puts us at risk for injury. And of course, I was saying last week that I'm mindful that spring is coming up, so we're going to start doing some spring activities, gardening, and all that. Let's get our bodies ready. Your own time. Notice if it's feeling complete. Settle into that starting position and draw a couple more breaths. With your feet, please roll a little to one side. That object of support. Maybe you want to lay flat again for a moment. That might feel really good. Then we're going to come on up to standing. We're going to give some loving massage and exploration of our feet, which of course is the foundation for the entire spine. It's pretty incredible. And I, as a body worker, in addition to being a yoga teacher, I've gotten to learn so much about the feet and the connectivity. And so often when people have, say, falling arches or pronations or whatever, the knees, the hips, everybody all the way up gets affected. And sometimes it's just an overabundance of tension in the area can really affect our back. So I want to make sure that we're in one leg very firmly. And so one way I kind of do this is I make sure that my foot that's pressing down on the ball is a little bit forward and that my standing leg is a little bit bent. And then I'm going to choose to shift my weight forward onto that ball foot. Yeah, and then I might just hold and let the foot fold over the ball. I love that. And maybe you want to go a little bit up or down and do that again. And then at some point, again, weight still in that left leg. So there's a lot of core work here. If you're doing it right, you should feel that standing glute and you're rolling up and down. Now, if somebody prefers something more intense, you might at some point get like a lacrosse ball or something kind of silicone and harder. And then you can plant the heel. Again, I've got that foot is forward of the other foot. And I'm going to take my foot kind of in the left to right movement. So the ball is moving from the base of the big toe or ball of it to the kind of base knuckle of the pinky. Again, I really prefer doing this with something a little bit harder. Like I love super balls. Like kids' super balls are some of my favorites. And you can get some pretty amazing acupressure points. I almost feel like mom might be working on my feet when I use the little balls. All right. And at some point, you might roll it out. You can curl the top of the foot under. I had one yoga student the other day tell me they'd finally gone to this chiropractor I'd recommended and had noticed when we would do this that one foot really hurt when he turned it under like this. And the chiropractor totally adjusted his split toes and ankle and it didn't hurt anymore. And it had just been like that for like a decade, just like, yes, proving my point. Thank you so much. All right, weight into the other foot and the other foot goes forward. And with my core drawing back, I'm going to shift my weight forward and let all that weight go down on the ball and let the ball push up in the knee. We might as well breathe while we're at it, right? And again, you can repeat that kind of release and press, and you can shift your position slightly so the ball is maybe a little more forward towards the base of the toes and a little more back, right where the heel and the arch connect. And I find those to be three distinct points, kind of the center and then the up and down. You guys find something good? Yeah. Me too. Oh, clunk. And at some point, again, you can plant the heel and just go kind of side to side. Again, if you're using another, like a harder ball, there are other kind of fun things you can do. One of my favorites is to plant the ball of the foot and have the ball, the hard ball kind of where the heel and the foot connect. And especially if you have any like lead up to plantar fasciitis and so on, it can feel really amazing. All right, again, bring that out, maybe give it a roll out, curl the toes under, nice little stretch. And we're going to find our mountain stance right here, intelligent feet. Just going to do a little bit of flowing movement, etc. I invite you to really be in your core. We're going to do some warrior stuff. So it's everything all the way up and down, right? As you're at anchor, inhale, root and rise, your version. Maybe it adds a little glute squeeze forward. Exhaling and fold. Full breath here. Compression and expansion. On the inhale, drop the butt, chair pose, or if you'd like, bar stool. On a long inhale, root and rise. On an exhale, crane, lifting that right knee, hands come into prayer. Full breath right here. Even though we're not looking at our foot, we are anchoring and thinking about it. Slow journey back to either your crescent lunge, so you're on the ball of the back foot, or your foot is flat, just angled slightly. Hip bones forward, right? Nice long inhale. And I'm gonna add some arm movements. So I'm gonna kind of create goalposts, or imagine I'm pulling down on something. You could do big windmill arms. Sometimes people like slicing. Noticing what's in there. And one more long inhale with windmill arms. I'm gonna reach my chest up, glutes are forward. Beautiful. And I'm gonna just return to a nice neutral spine, prayer hands, or I open up to warrior two. Again, nice core support. What I don't want is a butt out behind or torso forward. And everyone, I'd love you to check your front knee. I want it tracking with your foot. And if it's not, it means those glutes need to send towards the right edge of the mat so the legs externally rotate. And a couple more breaths, just noticing the deep anchoring through that back foot and pushing into it will actually get you into beautiful thigh engagement. It's also nice for that. It's good to be powerful and peaceful. Here we are in warrior. Let's inhale and reach up and back, exalted warrior. Again, while you're there, you could bend the arm a little and reach a little more, and then reach a little more. And then forward lateral stretch, elbow to that front thigh. Good. And again, I like reaching, but bending and reaching. Warrior. Your option to come out into your straddle and ragdoll, or if you're craving more dog series because you're like, hey, that felt great, then you plant your hands and step back. Breathe, notice. If you're straddle, maybe you're going side to side. If that's the case, really work those feet into the floor. There's no tilting and flopping. If you're in dog series, or maybe even just downward dog, again, thinking about that core, that harness. All right. And in a moment, we're going to meet at the front of the mat again. There are so many different ways to get there, so I'm just going to let you find your way. Really being in breath, thinking about core support, easing your spine, nice counter shape to whatever you were in. And we'll once again find our mountain stance. Intelligent feet, rising all the way up on a long inhale, root and rise. Is there more? Exhaling, fold. Inhaling, extend halfway up this time, hands on shin bones. Exhale, fold one more time. Really get that core involved. Now we'll inhale, chair or bar stool, nice drop of the hips. And a long inhale, root and rise. Again, your version, maybe there's a little back bend. Exhale, prayer hands, standing crane. We're going to lift the left leg this time. Full breath, enjoying balance challenge. And slowly stepping back to your version. Crescent lunge or warrior one. Either way. Right hip bone draws back, left hip bone forward until you can squeeze those inner thighs. And we play with arms, with breath. And at some point, if you'd like to join me in that little back bend with the goalpost arms again, it's a rooting back through that back leg and heel, and it's ascending forward through the hips and the ribs, and then up through the heart. So no spinal compression, just a beautiful front body opening. Make sure you return to spine neutral, prayer hands, or however you'd like, before creating your warrior two stance. Again, checking with that front knee, noticing if it's a kind of chronic thing, that the knee is to the inside of the hips. And that just tells you that you aren't clicking in with glute strength right away. Tuning into the breath wave rising and settling. On a long inhale, exalted warrior, that right arm just up and back, looking good. Make sure you're not leaning back through that left ribs. You don't want to get compressed. It's more up than back. And slowly forward. Lateral stretch, elbow to thigh. Shoulder heads draw down the back. That lower waistline is lifting into the upper waistline. So you almost don't need the elbow. And again, what's happening with that top arm is up to you, but I love bending and reaching. I feel like I just get all this lubrication in my side body where I tend to be real tight. And in your own time, releasing out either a straddle, downward dog. You don't have to do what you did last time. If you're in straddle, one of my favorite little stretches to add is to drop the hips to one side and let the heel or the sole of the foot come away and get this nice kind of, I don't know, runner's stretch or something, what to call it. Take all the time you like exploring, and maybe you're craving one more downward dog, maybe dog series, cow cat. Maybe you want to return to a front body stretch, could feel really good after this. So it might be another round of quadricep stretch. And maybe you'd even add a little standing dancer at this time because we've gotten warmed up in that way. And that can feel pretty amazing. So you would just standing, clasp one ankle, get that glute squeeze, and then slowly pressing the ankle back into the hand. Very important that this is much more about elongating than getting it high. So I'm sending the ankle back and the heart forward. Sometimes sending a little bit up can feel amazing, but if you feel any pressure, then desist. Maybe there's something we didn't do that your body's hungry for or that you want more of. So go there. We're going to take the next minute or so, just everybody each to tune into your own body and see what might be needed. And then we're going to create our resting shape, whatever that is. Remember, you could go legs up the wall. If you're at home, you could put your lower leg up on an ottoman, for example. It can feel amazing. Anytime we create inversions and so on, we really give some marvelous input to our blood flow and circulation. You might place a bolster so that it's propped up on a block, and that can create wonderful support, especially if you're somebody who, if you ever at the end of Shavasana kind of feel like your back is really tight when you're trying to come up off the floor, this might be a good amendment for you. So you would place the block and the bolster on the block, and then sitting on the floor, you lean into and against the support of the bolster. I like that it gives me one more chance also to open through the chest space. Just letting gravity work with me gently. Would anyone like a bolster who doesn't have one handy? And now move the block up a little bit. Yeah, right at the end. Perfect. Thank you. Nice. Anybody feeling like they need something under their knees for support? And if you would just scan your body and notice if there's anything that's kind of talking to you, and we're seeking the seeking support and ease. Nothing to know, do, or accomplish. You've already done so much good self-massage, inner listening. Now your time is here where all you do is they get soft and relaxed, let your mind quiet. It's going to settle on anything. Maybe it's just witnessing the slow, soft breath in the body as if you were a baby sleeping. A gentle rising and settling of the belly. Each exhale, sinking a little more deeply down and down and down. Please become lightly aware of my voice while staying deeply introverted. I'm offering the question again. You will ask yourself, you know, say, what is it like to be you? You're asking, what is it like to be me? And you're scanning for answers that run the gamut from physical to emotional, spiritual. I'd like to offer the concept of impermanence. Impermanence is a real thing. It's not just a concept. But when we choose to wrap our heads around it, it can really transform how much we attach to things that are difficult or uncomfortable, and even how much we attach to things that are pleasurable or as how we would like them to be. We probably all had things happen in our life where there's perhaps a sudden death of someone we know, a sudden arrival of a gift or abundance of some sort, delightful opportunity. So the point is that there's often so much around the corner that we don't know about. So whatever it is in this moment that we're dealing with, like a recognition that it will change is valuable. So the question is, what measure of contentment and gratitude can we find inside of what is and the knowledge of its impermanence? If you're not already taking a few minutes a day for contemplation, meditation, whatever you want to call it, I really highly recommend it. It can help us then meet whatever's happening in that day in a very different way. Would be the thing that can float with the river versus struggling against the current. Thank you all so much for this commitment that you made to yourselves and getting here to the mat, the way in which you show up for each other as community. I'm so grateful, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Om Shanti Shanti Om Peace Peace. Namaste. Namaste. A wonderful day being you, y'all. So glad you could tune in here.